Boeing warns employees of potential NASA cancellation of $2.5 billion SLS contracts impacting 10,000 jobs. On February 7, 2025, Boeing held a critical all-hands meeting with its employees working on the Space Launch System SLS program, where they conveyed unsettling news regarding potential layoffs. The aerospace giant cautioned that up to 400 positions could be eliminated due to uncertainties surrounding NASA's contracts. This announcement comes amidst speculation that the Biden administration may consider canceling the SLS program as part of anticipated revisions to the Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon. Background of the SLS program. The SLS program was initiated in 2010 after the Obama administration canceled the Constellation program. Congress directed NASA to develop the SLS as a heavy-lift rocket, positioning it as a cornerstone of U.S. lunar exploration efforts. The program, however, has faced considerable criticism over the years for its high costs and low flight frequency. The first successful launch of the SLS occurred during the Artemis mission in late 2022, but the program's future remains uncertain. Timeline of events leading to the warning. February 7, 2025, Boeing conducted an all-hands meeting informing approximately 800 employees of the potential layoffs due to the looming cancellation of SLS contracts. Boeing's vice president and program manager for SLS, David Dutcher, announced that the company was preparing for possible job cuts as the Biden administration contemplates the future of the SLS program. March 2025, the contracts associated with the SLS program are set to potentially expire, and Boeing is required to issue 60-day notices of involuntary layoffs in accordance with the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Warn Act. 2022, the SLS successfully launched for the first time during the Artemis mission, but subsequent missions, including the Artemis II crewed flight, have faced multiple delays, pushing the timeline for lunar exploration further back. Job cuts and their implications. Boeing's notification of potential layoffs is dire, with the company estimating that around 400 jobs could be impacted. This decision is part of a broader strategy to realign the workforce in response to anticipated changes in the Artemis program and budgetary constraints. Boeing has stated that they are working to redeploy employees across the company to mitigate job losses, but the uncertainty surrounding the SLS program raises concerns about the future of approximately 10,000 jobs tied to the SLS and related activities. Concerns over cost and efficiency. The SLS program has been criticized for its exorbitant costs, with estimates exceeding $2 billion per launch. Critics argue that the program is inefficient and that NASA should pivot towards commercial alternatives that are more cost-effective, such as SpaceX's Falcon Heavy and Starship. The debate within the White House and NASA regarding the future of the SLS program reflects a growing sentiment that the current architecture may not be sustainable in the long term. Political context and future considerations. The potential cancellation of the SLS program is set against a backdrop of shifting priorities within the Biden administration and ongoing budget discussions. Some advocates for commercial spaceflight are urging the administration to cancel SLS altogether, while others, including acting NASA Administrator Janet Petro, are pushing for the continuation of the program to complete upcoming Artemis missions. As the Biden administration prepares its budget proposal, the fate of the SLS and its associated workforce remains uncertain. The political ramifications of canceling the SLS program could be significant. With strong support for the program in Congress and the potential for backlash from affected employees and contractors. Conclusion. Boeing's warning to its employees regarding potential layoffs in the SLS program underscores the precarious position of the Artemis program and the SLS rocket in the current landscape of U.S. space exploration. As discussions unfold within the White House and NASA, the future of the SLS and the jobs of thousands of employees hangs in the balance. Reflecting broader concerns about the efficiency and viability of traditional government-led space programs in an increasingly commercial spaceflight environment. Boeing's warning to its employees about potential layoffs from the Space Launch System (SLS) program highlights a significant moment in the ongoing debate surrounding NASA's Artemis program and the future of U.S. space exploration. The announcement indicates that up to 400 positions could be cut due to anticipated changes in NASA's strategy, particularly as the Biden administration reviews its funding priorities amid criticisms of the SLS's high costs and inefficiencies compared to commercial alternatives. Counterintuitive information. 1. Job cuts amid future missions. While Boeing is discussing layoffs, NASA continues to assert that the SLS rocket is an essential component of the Artemis program, which raises questions about the coordination and communication between Boeing and NASA. Despite the warnings of layoffs, NASA has not officially announced any changes to the Artemis missions, suggesting a disconnect between contractor preparation and agency direction. 2. Political resistance to cancellation. The historical context of the SLS's development reveals that it was born out of political necessity rather than purely technical or financial considerations. Originally, the SLS was created to mitigate job losses in the aerospace sector following the cancellation of the Constellation program. This history implies that any move to cancel the SLS may face significant pushback from Congress, as job preservation remains a key political factor. Thus, the potential for layoffs may inadvertently maintain support for the SLS, contradicting the expectation that financial assessments alone would guide decision-making. 3. Cost versus capability. The assertion that SLS is a jobs-maximizing program, not a results-maximizing program, reflects a cynical view of government contracts and aerospace funding. Critics argue that maintaining the SLS merely perpetuates high costs without delivering efficient results, contrasting sharply with the lower-cost, more efficient private sector options like SpaceX's Falcon Heavy or even newer entrants like Blue Origin's New Glenn. This perspective challenges the conventional wisdom that government programs are inherently more capable. Instead, it suggests that the drive to maintain employment and congressional support might be stifling innovation and cost-effective solutions. 4. Focus on Mars versus Moon. There is speculation that the Biden administration may pivot NASA's focus from lunar missions to Mars exploration, creating uncertainty around the SLS's future. This shift could imply that the administration prioritizes long-term goals over immediate lunar missions, which contradicts the initial vision posed by the Artemis program. The idea that the SLS, designed for lunar missions, may be sidelined in favor of Mars exploration is counterintuitive, especially given the extensive investment already made in SLS development. 5. Commercial alternatives versus government programs. The emergence of commercial spaceflight capabilities has put pressure on government-led initiatives like the SLS. While the SLS was conceived in a time when commercial solutions were not as advanced, the landscape has shifted dramatically. The counterintuitive aspect here is that despite the SLS being a government program, it is now being compared unfavorably against commercial solutions that are both more cost-effective and innovative. This situation raises questions about the role of government in space exploration, whether it should act as a direct competitor or as a facilitator for commercial enterprises. 6. Potential impact on the industrial base. The announcement of layoffs brings to light the broader implications for the aerospace industrial base. While Boeing's job cuts may seem isolated, they could trigger a ripple effect throughout the industry, impacting not just Boeing but also its suppliers and partners. This interconnectedness challenges the idea that layoffs can be viewed purely through the lens of a single company's workforce and instead highlights the systemic risks involved in significant program changes. 7. Perception of reliability. Despite the SLS's high costs and operational delays, it is still perceived as a reliable option for heavy-lift missions due to its established design and testing history. The counterintuitive element here is that even with its flaws, stakeholders may still prefer SLS over unproven commercial alternatives, potentially leading to a preference for the status quo despite better options being available. In summary, Boeing's potential layoffs within the SLS program and the ongoing discussions about NASA's Artemis initiative reveal a complex interplay of political, economic, and operational factors within U.S. space exploration. The counterintuitive dynamics at play suggest that decisions regarding the future of the SLS may not be driven solely by practical considerations but rather by a web of historical, political, and economic influences that complicate straightforward assessments of program viability and effectiveness. Boeing's recent warning regarding potential layoffs of up to 400 employees in the Space Launch System SLS program. Due to the possibility of NASA canceling contracts worth $2.5 billion is a significant development with far-reaching implications that many people might overlook. Here are some critical aspects that deserve attention. Historical context and political implications. 1. Origins of the SLS. The SLS was conceived in 2010 after the cancellation of the Constellation program, which aimed to return humans to the Moon. The decision to move forward with SLS was heavily influenced by congressional mandates reflecting political motivations to sustain jobs within the aerospace sector. This historical context highlights the SLS as a product of political compromise rather than purely technical necessity. The potential cancellation of SLS can thus be seen not just as a technical decision but also as a politically charged one, which could face significant pushback from lawmakers who see it as a means to preserve jobs in their districts. 2. Congressional support. Historically, the SLS has enjoyed bipartisan support in Congress largely due to its job creation potential across multiple states, notably Alabama, where a significant portion of the work is done. Any move to cancel or significantly alter the SLS program could encounter substantial opposition from Congress, particularly from representatives whose constituents are employed in the aerospace industry. This aspect is critical as it underscores the intersection of policy, economics, and employment in decisions about national space programs. Economic implications. 1. Job losses. The reported layoffs directly affect approximately 400 positions, but the ripple effect could impact up to 10,000 jobs across the broader aerospace supply chain. This is a significant number, especially in the context of regional economies reliant on space-related work. The implications of such job losses extend beyond individual families to communities and local economies, which could see reduced economic activity and increased unemployment. 2. Cost-benefit analysis. The SLS program, with costs exceeding $2 billion per launch, raises questions about financial sustainability compared to emerging commercial alternatives such as SpaceX's Falcon Heavy and Starship. Critics argue that maintaining SLS drains resources that could be better utilized in more cost-effective ventures. This cost-benefit analysis is crucial for policymakers as they consider the future of U.S. space exploration and the role of private industry. Technological evolution and competitiveness. 1. Shift to commercial space. The SLS was intended to be a heavy-lift rocket to ensure U.S. leadership in space exploration. However, the rapid development of reusable launch systems by companies like SpaceX has transformed the landscape. The potential cancellation of SLS reflects a broader trend toward commercial space solutions emphasizing efficiency and cost-effectiveness. This shift could signal a pivotal change in how the U.S. approaches space missions, potentially prioritizing commercial partnerships over traditional government-led projects. 2. Technical delays. The SLS has faced significant delays, with only one launch, Artemis I, completed since its inception, while the next mission, Artemis II, continues to be postponed. This timeline raises concerns about the project's viability and the ability of NASA and Boeing to deliver on promised timelines. The technological stagnation associated with SLS could hinder the U.S.'s competitiveness in an increasingly commercialized space race. Future of the Artemis program. 1. Artemis missions. The fate of the SLS is intricately tied to the Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the Moon and eventually facilitate Mars exploration. Discussions surrounding the SLS's cancellation may inadvertently affect the broader goals of Artemis, potentially delaying missions or altering their architecture. Critics have argued that reliance on SLS could slow progress toward lunar objectives, emphasizing that alternative vehicles might accelerate mission timelines. 2. NASA's position. NASA has publicly stated that SLS remains an essential component of the Artemis program, but internal debates are reportedly ongoing regarding its future. The uncertainty surrounding NASA's stance complicates the situation for Boeing and its employees, contributing to anxiety within the workforce and the industry. Understanding NASA's position and the implications of its budget proposals is vital for predicting the trajectory of U.S. space exploration. Conclusion. The potential cancellation of Boeing's SLS contracts presents a multifaceted issue that extends beyond immediate job losses. It encapsulates historical, economic, technological, and strategic dimensions that could redefine the U.S. approach to space exploration. As stakeholders, including government officials, aerospace personnel, and private companies, navigate these complex waters, the decisions made in the coming months will have lasting implications for the future of NASA, the Artemis program, and the broader aerospace industry. The intersection of these factors indicates that merely viewing the layoffs in isolation would be a significant oversight, as they reflect deeper trends in policy, economics, and technological innovation in the realm of space exploration. 1. Potential job losses and economic impact. Boeing's warning about potential layoffs affecting approximately 400 employees highlights the broader implications for the aerospace industry and the local economies dependent on these jobs. The layoffs are tied to uncertainties surrounding NASA's Artemis program and the viability of the Space Launch System (SLS). This situation underscores the fragility of employment in the aerospace sector, particularly when government contracts are in flux. The Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification WARN Act, which mandates a 60-day notice before mass layoffs, reflects the legal and ethical considerations companies must navigate when facing such decisions. The potential job cuts not only affect Boeing's workforce but also have cascading effects on the subcontractors and businesses that rely on these jobs, impacting thousands more in the industry. 2. Criticism of the SLS program. The SLS program has faced significant scrutiny due to its high costs, estimated at over $2 billion per launch, combined with a low flight rate and delays. Critics argue that the program is inefficient and that it should be reassessed in light of the rapid advancements in commercial spaceflight, notably by companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin. The SLS, often referred to derisively as the Senate launch system, was initially conceived as a response to job preservation concerns following the cancellation of previous NASA programs. This criticism raises important questions about the sustainability of government-funded space exploration efforts and whether the SLS can effectively compete with more agile commercial alternatives. 3. Political and strategic implications. The future of the SLS program is entangled with political dynamics and budgetary decisions within the Biden administration. The administration's anticipated budget proposal may significantly influence the fate of the SLS and the Artemis program overall. There is a clear division of opinion within the government and NASA regarding the program's future, with some advocating for its continuation while others push for a pivot to more cost-effective commercial solutions. The historical context of how the SLS was developed amid political pressures to maintain jobs and industrial capacity reveals the complexities of balancing political interests with technological and financial realities in space exploration policy. 4. Future of lunar exploration in NASA's strategy. The ongoing debates surrounding the SLS program and the Artemis missions point to broader strategic questions about NASA's goals for lunar exploration and eventual missions to Mars. With the Artemis II mission scheduled for April 2026, the program's timeline and objectives are critical. The uncertainty about whether to rely on the SLS or shift to commercial launch systems like SpaceX's Starship for future lunar missions could reshape NASA's approach to human space exploration. This discussion reflects a pivotal moment in U.S. space policy, where decisions made now will impact not only the immediate workforce but also the long-term trajectory of human spaceflight and exploration ambitions. The potential for a re-evaluation of NASA's reliance on traditional contractors versus embracing commercial partnerships is at the forefront of this strategic discourse. 1. Lockheed Martin and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter Program. In the early 2000s, the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program led by Lockheed Martin faced significant scrutiny and criticism over its escalating costs and delays. Initially estimated at around $233 billion, the program's costs ballooned to over $1.5 trillion over its lifetime, leading to concerns from both Congress and the Pentagon about its efficiency. The program was described as a cost-plus contract similar to Boeing's SLS, which incentivized prolonged development and increased costs. Lockheed Martin faced pressure to cut costs and improve performance, resulting in layoffs within the company and its subcontractors as budget revisions were proposed. Despite the criticism, the F-35 program continued, supported by strong congressional backing due to the jobs and economic impact on local industries. 2. NASA's Constellation Program. The Constellation Program was initiated in 2005 under President George W. Bush to develop a new crew vehicle, Orion, and a new rocket, Ares I and Ares V, to return humans to the Moon. However, the program was plagued by delays, rising costs, and technical challenges, leading to its cancellation in 2010 by the Obama administration. The cancellation resulted in significant job losses at major contractors including Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. These layoffs were met with pushback from Congress, which had invested heavily in the program to maintain workforce levels in the aerospace sector. The transition to the Space Launch System (SLS) was a direct response to the need for a new vehicle for human spaceflight, highlighting the ongoing tension between budget constraints and workforce impacts on the aerospace industry. 3. The Boeing 737 MAX crisis. In 2018, the Boeing 737 MAX was grounded worldwide following 2 fatal crashes linked to software failures. The crisis led to a significant decline in Boeing's stock, massive financial losses, and a ripple effect through the aviation industry. Boeing faced scrutiny from regulators and lawmakers, resulting in layoffs and furloughs among its workforce. The company was compelled to reassess its production levels and safety protocols, leading to significant changes in management and operational strategies. The fallout from the 737 MAX incidents mirrored the current situation with Boeing's SLS program, where financial pressures and public scrutiny prompted a re-evaluation of existing contracts and workforce implications. The 737 MAX crisis underscored the delicate balance Boeing must maintain between operational efficiency and maintaining a skilled workforce in a highly competitive environment. The future outlook for Boeing and NASA's Space Launch System (SLS) program, particularly in light of recent warnings about potential layoffs and program cancellations, is characterized by uncertainty, challenges, and a shifting landscape in space exploration. Here are several predictions and considerations regarding the future of the SLS program, Boeing's role, and the broader implications for the space industry. 1. Potential cancellation of the SLS program. With the Biden administration reportedly re-evaluating NASA's Artemis program, the SLS's future is increasingly in jeopardy. Predictions suggest that if the administration decides to prioritize cost efficiency and rapid technological advancements, the SLS could face cancellation. This would align with ongoing discussions advocating for a shift toward commercial launch options such as SpaceX's Starship, which offers lower costs and greater reusability. 2. Job losses and workforce impact. Boeing's warning to employees about potential layoffs underscores the immediate human cost of these decisions. If the SLS contracts are indeed canceled, up to 400 Boeing employees could lose their jobs, impacting not only those directly involved but also the wider industrial base, including subcontractors and suppliers. The aerospace sector could see a ripple effect, leading to further employment challenges and a potential talent drain as skilled workers seek opportunities in more stable or innovative companies. 3. Shift toward commercial partnerships. The ongoing debate about the SLS program's future suggests a growing recognition of the capabilities of commercial spaceflight. As NASA shifts its focus, partnerships with companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are likely to become more prominent. The Artemis missions may increasingly depend on commercial launch vehicles and lunar landers rather than the SLS. Such a shift could foster innovation and reduce costs, but it may also challenge traditional aerospace companies like Boeing to adapt to a more competitive landscape. 4. Reassessment of NASA's Artemis goals. As the Biden administration prepares its budget proposals, a significant reassessment of NASA's Artemis goals may occur. Future missions could prioritize technological advancements that enable quicker, more efficient lunar and Martian exploration. This could involve a pivot away from the SLS towards an exploration strategy that leverages commercial capabilities. The emphasis might shift towards achieving milestones in lunar exploration, such as establishing a sustainable presence on the Moon with an eye toward Mars. 5. Congressional support dynamics. Despite the criticisms of the SLS program, it has historically garnered bipartisan support in Congress due to its job creation potential and the political clout of associated contracts. Future decisions regarding SLS funding will likely depend on the political landscape and lobbying from affected stakeholders. If significant job losses occur, there may be pressure from Congress to sustain the program even if it is deemed less efficient compared to commercial alternatives. 6. Technological innovation and competition. The aerospace industry is rapidly evolving, with new technologies emerging that could redefine space exploration. The success of SpaceX's Falcon and Starship rockets has demonstrated the feasibility of cost-effective reusable launch vehicles. If the SLS program is cancelled, Boeing and other traditional aerospace manufacturers may need to pivot towards innovation, investing in new technologies or partnerships that align with the emerging trends in space exploration. 7. Impact on future space missions. The future of the Artemis program and subsequent missions to Mars will depend heavily on the outcomes of the SLS re-evaluation. If the SLS is cancelled, NASA may need to adjust its mission timelines and objectives, potentially delaying human landings on the Moon and Mars. This could hinder the U.S.'s leadership in space exploration and affect international partnerships and collaborations. Conclusion. The fate of Boeing's SLS program and its workforce is intricately tied to broader shifts in NASA's strategy and the evolving landscape of commercial spaceflight. As the Biden administration prepares its budget and considers the future of the Artemis program, the aerospace sector must brace for potential upheaval. Ultimately, the decisions made in the coming months will have lasting implications for the space industry, workforce dynamics, and the U.S.'s role in global space exploration.